So I don't expect to live up to that performance. Thank you, girls. My name is Sasha Parmasad, and as you would have probably guessed, I'm from Trinidad originally, and I lived in India for some time as a child, and now I'm in the US. Thank you to Usha, and thank you to everyone who's participated in making this such a special family occasion. Something to remember for a long time. So, let me see. I've written a paper here. It's somewhat abstract in certain ways, and I think I would like to share it by just kind of talking it out with you and reading it formally, maybe bits and pieces, here and there. It's called Nothing for Intellectuals. Now, what is the premise, or what really stimulated this interest? I'm a visual artist and a poet and a performer from the time I was a little child, and a lot of people in this room are very multi-skilled. There are multiple ways that we express ourselves, both artistically as well as in the world. We all have multiple identities and multiple voices. So there's this expression, this self-expression. This self-expression, underneath it, is what? It's desire, right? Desire is the impetus behind self-expression. Now that desire can take different forms. Desire for really to speak a truth, to see ourselves represented, to connect with others. There's desire. This is something that we, as artists, we know. What is underneath the desire? Where is this desire coming from? What is the foundation of desire? Because desire is ephemeral. It's passing, right? It comes and goes, like thoughts, like emotions. So, nothing for intellectuals, but stimulated this search, actually, and I can't say that I have the answer, it's more of a rumination, is where is our desire to write, to embody ourselves in the world through our art products? Where is this desire? What is the fountain that is thrusting up? And I'm using that not in a masculine sense. It is both for both genders, and I'm using it thrusting up in a kind of unisex way. What is that desire that is carrying us forward like a river? Now, a lot of the work that I've heard so far in this conference has been boundary breaking in some way, and this matwala itself is boundary breaking. It is coming out of an impulse to create something new and to build, to knit, to weave. And I would say that all the great writers and thinkers and artists have had this impulse to break the boundary. That's almost cliche to kind of speak about. So there's a desire to express a relative truth of who am I? Am I an Indian? Am I a South Asian? Am I a this? Am I a that? Am I a man? Am I a woman? Am I a shoe? Do I like bananas? Do I not like bananas? There's this impulse to express some sort of relative truth. And that has been the impetus for certain matwala, what is our identity? That has been the impulse for groundbreaking work in life and in the disciplines and in the artistic realm. But when we consider Joyce Carol Oates, okay, she has written about the faith of a writer. This is a book that she's published, and she identifies the act of creating something from a singular relative perspective, from I. She identifies that act of creating from the I, that act of making art, as the highest expression of the human spirit. She says, in her words, I believe that art is the highest expression of the human spirit, I believe that we yearn to transcend the merely finite and ephemeral, to participate in something mysterious and communal called culture, and that this yearning is as strong in our species as the yearning to reproduce through the species. So we have that reproductive, you can say, that animal in us, that human animal instinct that is coming out of to reproduce. That is the sexual energy. Then you have culture, which is a more refined expression that's coming from our mind and our hearts. And that is a more refined expression of that same desire. But what is, so there's a different levels of desire, but that satisfaction that comes from the act of producing, it's not ever quenched, is it? It's not quenched. We produce, we have a child, we have a festive something in bed, and then we create an art product, and then we go into there's a period of rest, and then we go into another dive. So that desiring is not quenched. There is still that yearning, there is still that hunger. Is that desiring quenchable? Do we want to quench it? What happens if we do? What happens to us as artists, as creators, and as human beings? Because some of us also create that yearning for the homeland, for some sort of wholeness. Sometimes it's not a very satisfying thing. There's pain and all kinds of other things tied up into that. So, Oates suggests, Joyce Carol Oates, she suggests that art arises out of a yearning to transcend, in her words, to transcend the merely finite and ephemeral. But I think we all know that that yearning, after we have transcended, then that yearning returns. So the art product is not transcendental. The art product is a moment in time, or the act of desire is a moment in time that passes. Where does this leave us? It leaves us with the journey. It leaves us with the journey. The journey of making that before fulfillment of the act. The journey of production. The journey of traveling together in this conference, or the journey, it's not about the culmination. It is about the process of making. It is about the process of communion with ourselves on the page, with ourselves, with each other, interacting inwardly, the joy of self-discovery in ourselves when we write. Why do we do it? Why do we make art? Why do we waste so many hours in solitude and sometimes don't even share it with the world? It's because we enjoy ourselves so much. We enjoy ourselves, and then also another step, sometimes we enjoy sharing it with others. And more than anything in this communion, we have enjoyed the poets, all of us, we've begun to speak to each other, have conversations, okay? Keiki we wanted him to read more about, the festive aspects of life. And he shared, a poem, and that called in a response, and then there was, so there's a conversation at work. The joy is in the journey of conversing. The product, in whatever way it comes forth, is itself, but it will never give that satisfaction that comes from the journey. Therefore, the simple point of the essay that I did not read, but have summarized for you, hopefully, is that, there is this, there's this image of a snake swallowing its tail. And many people might, I've heard it said, I've been writing since I was 5 years old and surrounded by writers, and I've heard it said so many times that writing is a very selfish enterprise. That you're so self-centered and self-engrossed, and there's it's like a snake that swallows its own tail. But what about that act of swallowing, the end point being an act of being an incessant journeying? It's a journey that can never end. And what more beautiful thing than writing words? It's more intimate than intimacy of the flesh when you read someone else's words and that consciousness permeates your own. There is nothing else like that beauty. And more beautiful is hearing the words of people that we care about, hearing those words spoken in their voice, which is why Usha demanded that Kiki as well read one poem that she loved. Hearing that voice, and then it's not even now a word that you read, it's entering you like sound. And on that note, I have loved this Love Fest and enjoyed sharing, and I hope that we continue journeying together.